No one in the tribes ever crossed into the crimson thicket. It was a place of death, where no living creature returned. The jungle trees there were blood red. The air was thick with a heavy smell of rot. But worse than all of that was the beast that ruled inside, the Velgrith, a massive predator, covered in black-scaled armor, with eyes that glowed in the dark. It was said to be smart, cunning, and brutal. No one hunted the Velgrith, they ran from it. But on that day, something strange happened. Vetra, an alien biologist, stood on a high ridge looking over the jungle. She was studying plant growth from a safe distance, but her eyes caught something unusual: smoke, thin gray smoke, rising from deep inside the crimson thicket. That was impossible. No one survived in there long enough to build a fire. Her curiosity got the better of her. She packed her equipment and carefully moved closer. She stepped between twisted red trees, her senses alert. Every crack of a branch made her heart jump. Every shadow felt like it was watching her. Still, she pushed forward. After an hour of careful walking, she saw it. A small clearing in the middle. A campfire burned, and someone was sitting next to it. Her heart skipped. It was a human. He sat cross-legged, humming softly, turning a large piece of meat over the fire. At first, Vetra thought it was just animal flesh, but then she saw the skin, thick, black, scaled. Her eyes widened. It was Velgrith meat. She froze behind a tree, her mind racing. The human was roasting the flesh of the most dangerous predator on the planet. That couldn't be real. It had to be a trick. Yet the smell of the meat, the sight of the massive bones beside him, it was all real. The human suddenly spoke without looking up. "You gonna keep hiding, or do you want a bite?" Vetra gasped. How did he know she was there? She stepped out cautiously, her weapon ready but her hands trembling. Who are you?" she asked. The human smiled, his face rough and sunburned. "Name's Caleb, hunter, survivalist, and currently chef." He pointed to the meat turning over the fire. "Velgrith, right? Tastes like a mix between alligator and disappointment." He laughed at his own joke. Vetra was too shocked to laugh. "How are you alive?" "That creature. No one can kill it." Caleb shrugged. "Someone forgot to tell it that." She stepped closer, her eyes scanning the camp. She saw traps made of wire, strange sharp sticks, and bombs made from local minerals. "You hunted it?" she asked. Still not believing, Caleb nodded. "Took me 3 weeks of study, observation, and waiting. They're smart, but not smarter than a patient human." Vetra was speechless. Her people had feared the Velgrith for centuries. And yet this single human had brought one down. But why? She asked, "Why risk your life for this?" Caleb grinned. "Because that's what we do. We hunt the biggest thing around, or it hunts us." Vetra shook her head. "You're insane." "Maybe," Caleb replied, "but now I've got meat." For weeks, suddenly, Caleb's expression turned serious. "Stay quiet now. The smell of cooked Velgrith attracts others." Vetra's eyes widened. "Others? You mean there are more coming?" Caleb nodded, standing up and grabbing his spear. Always, predators don't like when you kill their kin. Vetra felt panic rise in her chest. She wasn't prepared to face even one Velgrith, let alone more. Caleb noticed her fear. "Stay by me if you want to see tomorrow." Despite her pride, she stepped closer to him. She didn't want to die in that cursed jungle. Caleb threw more wood on the fire. The flames rising high. "We'll have visitors tonight," he said, his voice calm. "But don't worry. I've got traps set all around us." Vetra still felt unsure. But there was something about Caleb's confidence. It wasn't arrogance. It was experience. She looked again at the massive Velgrith corpse laying beside the camp. Its mouth still open, fangs like swords. And yet the human had killed it, cooked it, and was feasting on it. For the first time, Vetra wondered, what were humans really? Not just weak, soft-skinned beings, but something else entirely, something dangerous. Something that even the apex predators of Xaverus would soon fear. The night was coming, and so were the hunters of the dark. But Vetra stayed, because she had to see what happened next. She had to see what made a human so fearless. She couldn't believe it, but the proof was right before her eyes. A human feasting on the planet's deadliest beast. The fire crackled as the jungle shadows grew deeper. Vetra stood, half ready to run, half rooted by curiosity. She watched the human, this strange, sunburned man named Caleb, as he casually turned the Velgrith meat over the fire. She still couldn't believe it, not just a dead predator, but his calmness, as if sitting in the middle of a death zone was just another day for him. Caleb glanced up, his eyes catching the alien woman watching him from a distance. "You're still here," he said, smiling. "Thought you'd run screaming by now." Vetra gripped her blade tightly. "I should kill you for coming here, for upsetting the balance." Caleb chuckled. "Balance?" "I think the balance was already broken when something started eating everything smaller than itself." He sliced a piece of meat and took a bite, chewing slowly. "Besides, I'm not the one who started the killing. I just don't like being food." Vetra's eyes narrowed. "You don't belong here, human. This is not your world." Caleb shrugged. "That's the thing about humans, Vetra. No world ever belongs to us, until it does." His words sent a chill down her spine. Vetra took a cautious step forward. "You don't understand the Velgrith. They are not just predators, they keep the jungle in order. If you kill them, the entire ecosystem collapses." Caleb raised an eyebrow. "Funny. Seems to me the ecosystem is already collapsing when one beast keeps everything else hiding." Before Vetra could argue, the jungle went silent. The air grew heavy. Caleb stood up immediately, eyes sharp. "They're here," he muttered. Vetra looked around, seeing nothing but feeling everything. A deep growl echoed through the trees, followed by the heavy stomp of massive feet. Then glowing eyes, more than one pair, appeared in the dark. 3 Velgriths, even bigger than the dead one, surrounded the clearing. Their black scales shimmered under the moonlight, their jaws dripping with saliva. Vetra's knees weakened. She had no plan to face even one Velgrith. Caleb, however, simply smiled. "Showtime," he whispered, without warning. One of the Velgriths lunged forward, but as it stepped, the ground beneath it erupted in a sharp blast. Caleb's hidden explosives. The creature roared in pain. Part of its leg tore, another tried to flank them, but wires hidden in the foliage snapped tight, catching its limbs and pulling it down. The 3rd Velgrith roared and charged directly at Caleb. Vetra screamed, "Run!" But Caleb didn't move. He raised his spear, but it wasn't ordinary. The tip glowed faintly blue, with perfect timing. Caleb dodged to the side and plunged the spear deep into the predator's side. The Velgrith howled, stumbling. Vetra could see the spear sparking, delivering an electric surge inside the creature. Finally, the beast collapsed with a heavy thud. Caleb pulled his spear free, breathing hard but smiling. "One down," he said. Vetra stood in disbelief. Humans weren't the strongest or the fastest, but this one was clever, prepared, and completely fearless. "You're mad," she whispered. Caleb grinned. "Mad? Maybe, but effective." The remaining 2 Velgriths backed away, growling. Even they sensed that this prey was more dangerous than they expected. Vetra looked at Caleb with new eyes. "What kind of creature? Are you human?" Caleb sat back by his fire, picking up his meat again. "The kind that refuses to be eaten," he said. "We don't have claws or fangs or armor, but we think, we plan. And when we hunt, we win." Vetra sat down slowly, her heart still pounding. She asked, "Why do all this? Just to survive?" Caleb's face grew serious. "Because if I can survive here, Earth will know it can send more humans." Vetra's eyes widened. "You're not just a lost hunter. You're here to prepare for colonization." Caleb nodded. "Test subject. Phase 1, if I thrive, they come next." Vetra's stomach twisted. Humans were coming. They wouldn't just survive the jungle, they'd conquer it. And tonight, she had witnessed the proof. A single human had killed the king of the jungle, and others like him were coming. The jungle had its predators, but so did the stars, and the most dangerous one was now sitting by the fire, eating the flesh of the planet's deadliest creature. Night on Xaverus was never quiet, but this night was different. The jungle wasn't just alive, it was watching. Vetra sat by the fire, her eyes darting between the shadows. Her mind was restless, filled with fear, somewhere beyond the trees. The Velgriths waited, their glowing eyes tracking them. She knew it. The beasts were smart. They had seen Caleb kill. But they weren't running away. They were planning, because the Velgrith never forgot a threat, and now they hunted the hunter. Caleb was calm, checking his traps, tying wires between the trees. He worked with quiet confidence. To him, this wasn't madness, it was routine. You should sleep, he told Vetra without looking up, but she shook her head. I can't close my eyes knowing they're out there. Caleb chuckled. Then stay awake, but don't scream when they come. The wind carried strange scents. Vetra smelled blood, rot, and something sharp. The Velgrith musk. Caleb picked up a small clay pot from his pack. He cracked it open, spreading the dark paste on his skin. What's that? Vetra asked. Scent mask, Caleb replied. Makes me smell less delicious. Vetra didn't have any of that. She cursed herself for not bringing any tools. But Caleb seemed prepared for everything. She watched as he climbed a tree, tying something shiny to the branches, tiny bells, almost too soft to hear. Alarms, he explained, if they move. I'll hear it before they strike. The night grew colder, the moon pale and thin in the sky. Then a bell rang. Just once, soft but clear. Caleb froze, his eyes scanning the trees. Then another bell, from the opposite side. They're testing. U.S., Caleb muttered. Smart bastards. Suddenly, a shadow moved fast. A Velgrith lunged from the left. Caleb threw a sharp stick, coated in dark sap. Poison. The creature howled and retreated. Then another came from the right. Vetra screamed. But Caleb tossed a smoke bomb. A cloud of stinging smoke exploded. The Velgrith coughed and snarled, backing away. Vetra's heart was pounding. She had never seen anyone stand against one, let alone many. Yet Caleb fought with the jungle like it was his own playground. Every trap, every trick was a message. You're not the only hunters here. But the Velgrith didn't stop. A third one, larger than the others, stepped into the clearing, its eyes burned with hatred, its body covered in scars. Caleb smiled. That's the big one. He grabbed his spear, but this one had a thick wire attached. It sparked faintly with electricity. Stay behind me, Caleb warned. Vetra nodded. Though her legs felt like stone, the Velgrith charged, roaring like a storm. Caleb ran forward. Sliding under its massive claws, he drove the spear into the beast's belly. Electric shocks rippled through the creature's body, but it didn't fall. It grabbed Caleb with its tail, slamming him against a tree. Vetra screamed, thinking he was dead. But Caleb stood up, coughing, bleeding. Stubborn son of a... He grabbed a second device, a metal disc, blinking red. He threw it under the Velgrith, and it exploded in a flash of light and sound. The beast roared in agony. Blinded and deafened, Caleb didn't hesitate. He climbed its back, driving his spear into the base of its skull. The Velgrith staggered, then collapsed with a thunderous crash. Dead, Vetra stared, speechless. Caleb stood on the corpse, catching his breath. 3 down, he whispered. Still breathing. Vetra ran to him. You're insane, you should be dead. Caleb wiped the blood from his face, smiling. I'm human, dying is boring. For a moment, all was quiet. But then deep in the jungle, a howl echoed, low and ancient. Even Caleb's face turned serious. That wasn't the others, he muttered. That's something bigger. Vetra's blood turned cold. If these were the hunters, she whispered, then what just answered is the king. Caleb smiled, but there was no joy in it. Good, he said, because I came here to hunt kings. The night wasn't over. The real hunt had just begun. The jungle was silent again, but it wasn't peace. It was fear. Even the insects refused to sing. Vetra sat near the dying fire, her body stiff with exhaustion. She watched Caleb clean his wounds with calm hands. Every movement was slow but sure. How could he be so casual after killing 3 Velgryths? The silence was heavy between them, but her mind was louder. She had seen courage before. She had seen fools before, but Caleb was neither. There was a method in his madness. She stared at him and finally asked, "Who sent you here, human?" Caleb looked up, his face unreadable. "What makes you think I didn't just crash here?" "Because no one just survives in the Crimson Thicket," Vetra shot back. "You're not just any hunter. You're here for something more." Caleb chuckled softly. "Smart girl," he said, wiping blood from his cheek. "All right then, no more lies." He reached into his pack and pulled out a small square device. A hologram flickered alive, the symbol of the Terran expansion. Directive, Vetra's breath caught. She knew that symbol, Earth's colonial program. "You're one of them," she whispered. "A scout," Caleb nodded. "Phase 1, he confirmed. "They sent me to see if humans could survive your worst. If we can live where your predators thrive, we can claim this world." Vetra's stomach twisted. She stood, backing away. "You're planning to colonize Everus, too. Wipe away the wild and replace it with your kind." Caleb didn't deny it. "Not wipe away," he said. "Master it. There's a difference." Vetra shook her head. "You think killing beasts gives you the right to own a world?" Caleb looked her in the eye. "That's how every species survives. Dominate, adapt or die." Vetra's voice shook with anger. "We respect the balance of life here. You humans, you just conquer." Caleb smiled sadly. "Maybe," he said, "but conquering is just surviving with ambition. We don't have the luxury of balance on Earth. It was always a fight, always a struggle." Vetra's heart ached. She wanted to hate him, but part of her understood, still. She asked, "And if we resist?" Caleb's eyes turned cold. "Then you'll fall like everything else that tried to stop us." His words felt like a stone in her chest. She whispered, "You're monsters." Caleb stood up, stretching his tired muscles. "Maybe," he admitted. "But we're monsters who win." Vetra stepped closer, desperate. "There must be another way. A way where we don't have to lose everything." Caleb paused, looking at her, really looking. Then he sighed. "I didn't come here to kill your people," he said. "But Earth doesn't ask for permission, only proof that survival is possible. If I send the signal, more will come, and they won't ask questions." Vetra's hands trembled. She had to warn her people, but would they believe her? Would they fight? And even if they did, could they stop creatures like him? She stared at the human, the man who feasted on death and smiled at kings. For the first time in her life, Vetra felt small, not because of the jungle, but because of the mind of a human, and far away, beyond the sky, Earth waited, ready to send its next wave, the wave that would decide if Xaverus lived free or as a conquered world. But tonight, the jungle still had one more king. And Caleb wasn't done hunting. Vetra couldn't sleep, even with Caleb nearby, even with the fire burning. Her mind was a storm. She had learned the truth. Caleb was Earth's scout. If he survived, more humans would come. They would bring weapons, machines, and cities. Her world would change forever. She stared at the spear Caleb kept beside him, so simple, yet it killed what her people called untouchable. What chance did her tribe have if all humans were like him? She had to act. She had to stop him before it was too late. At dawn, she smiled and said, "I can lead you to the edge of the jungle, Caleb. You don't have to stay here and fight more." Caleb raised an eyebrow. "Just like that? You want to help now?" Vetra nodded, hiding her fear. "I've seen enough to know you're dangerous." She said, "Better you leave the Crimson Thicket, maybe go back to your kind." Caleb studied her for a long moment, then he laughed. "All right, guide me out," he said. "But if this is a trick, Vetra, remember, I don't forgive twice." They moved together, deeper into the jungle. Vetra walked ahead, her mind racing. She had secretly sent a signal to her tribe the night before. They would be waiting, ready to ambush. Every step was guilt, but she reminded herself, This was for her people. They had to stop the human before he called others. Hours passed until finally, they reached a clearing, and there, her warriors stepped out, weapons aimed. They had set traps, hidden nets, and sharp spears. Caleb stopped, eyes scanning the area. His smile faded. "So that's how it is," he said quietly. "You brought me to a trap." Vetra stepped aside, her heart heavy. "I'm sorry, Caleb," she said, "but I can't let you bring your kind here." Her chief stepped forward. "Surrender, human, or die here." But Caleb didn't look afraid. Instead, he smirked. "You think this is the first time I've walked into a trap?" Without warning, he stomped his foot. The ground beneath the warriors exploded in smoke and sparks. They screamed, some fell, coughing, blinded. Vetra watched in horror. Caleb had set his own traps on the path when... How? He moved like lightning, grabbing his spear, swinging it to knock down the first attacker. Then another. He was fast. Brutal, like a storm in human skin, Vetra shouted, "Stop, please!" But Caleb didn't stop. He fought until no one stood. Until the warriors fled into the jungle, broken, scared. Finally, he stood before Vetra, eyes burning. "You betrayed me," he said, his voice low and dangerous. Vetra fell to her knees. "I had to, Caleb," she whispered. "You'll destroy us." Caleb stepped closer, lifting her chin with his spear. "Then you should have killed me," he said coldly. "Because now, you'll see what happens when humans are betrayed." He walked away, leaving Vetra trembling. The jungle swallowed his figure. But the threat remained heavy in the air. She had tried to stop him. She had failed. And now, she had made an enemy of a human, somewhere deeper in the crimson thicket. Caleb prepared for his return, because next time, he wouldn't just be hunting beasts. He would be hunting those who dared betray him. Asterisk. But the jungle didn't return to normal. The wind carried no songs, no roars, only silence. Vetra's tribe whispered of bad omens. They said the jungle was mourning. Others said it was waiting. Vetra couldn't sleep. Every night she expected Caleb to return, to strike back for her betrayal. But the jungle stayed quiet until one night. A deep sound rumbled through the trees. Not the roar of a Velgrith, not the howl of any beast. It was the sound of something heavy being dragged. The warriors gathered, weapons ready. Then a shadow stepped into the moonlight. It was Caleb alive, unbroken, and dragging something enormous behind him. Vetra stepped forward, heart pounding, and then she saw it. The corpse of the Velgrith Alpha. It was twice the size of the others, its fangs long as spears, its scales black as night, and it was dead. Its neck broken, its body battered. Caleb dropped it with a thud, dust rising around it. He stood over the corpse, staring at the tribe. "This," Caleb said, his voice loud and clear, "was your king." The tribe stared in horror. The Alpha was a legend, a shadow in the jungle no one had ever seen. And this human had killed it. "You called me an intruder," Caleb said. "You called me weak, unworthy, but I killed what you worshipped in fear." No one spoke. The jungle itself seemed to hold its breath. Caleb's eyes locked on Vetra. "You betrayed me," he said, "but I didn't come here to kill you." "Not yet," he turned to the chief. "Earth is coming," Caleb declared. "They'll come with more than spears. They'll come with machines, with fire, with minds sharper than claws. You can fight us," he continued, "but you'll lose. Or you can learn from us, stand with us, and maybe survive what's coming." Vetra's heart ached. She wanted to shout, to fight back. But the corpse of the Alpha lay between them, proof that humans were more than mere invaders. They were predators of predators, apex in mind, not just muscle. The chief said nothing. The tribe watched in fear and awe. Caleb turned and began walking back to the jungle. But his last words echoed in the night. "The jungle belongs to the apex," he said. "And now, that's me." Vetra sank to her knees. She had tried to protect her people, but now she wondered, had she only delayed the inevitable? She watched the human disappear into the trees. And she knew the age of beasts was ending. The age of humans had begun, and there was no stopping it. Vetra stood at the edge of the jungle, staring into the trees where Caleb had vanished. The body of the Velgrith Alpha still lay cold, its corpse already attracting flies. It was a monument to a truth she didn't want to face. The old world was dead. A new one was coming. For days her people argued. Some wanted to flee deeper into the planet, away from human eyes. Others spoke of war, of ambushes and traps, but deep inside Vetra knew it was hopeless. The beasts of the jungle were no longer the masters here. A human had made that clear, and more would come. Still, a question burned in her heart. Was there no other way? No future where her people survived without being crushed beneath human boots? She waited, hoping Caleb would return, and on the fourth night he did, no longer dirty and ragged. This time he came clean, armored, his eyes still sharp but his posture heavier. He carried not a spear, but a small communicator. Blinking with light, "I sent the signal," Caleb said, his voice even. "They're coming." Vetra's chest tightened. Will they burn our forests? Will they kill us like the Velgrith? She asked. Caleb looked at her, and for once, there was no coldness in his gaze. "Only if you make them," he said softly. "Earth doesn't care about your trees, your traditions. They care if you fight them." Vetra felt the weight of his words. She looked around at her people, fear written on every face. She was their voice, their last hope. She stepped closer. "What happens if we don't fight?" she asked. Caleb's answer was simple. "Then you survive. You'll change, you'll adapt, but you'll live. Refuse, and you'll be a memory." Silence hung between them. Vetra thought of her ancestors, the stories of balance and respect. But what good were stories if no one was left to tell them? She took a deep breath and made her choice. "Teach us," she said quietly. "Teach us to survive your way." Caleb nodded once. "Then you've chosen right," he said. "Because on every world we set foot, only those who adapt get to see the next sunrise." Vetra turned to her tribe. Their faces still held fear, but also a spark of hope. Maybe, just maybe, there was a path forward, one where they didn't vanish like the beasts. As dawn broke, Vetra knew one truth. Her world would never be the same, but at least it would survive. Because when the apex changes, you either change with it, or you disappear. And now, on Xaverus, the apex wore a human face.